everybody, welcome back to Anna Reads, and we have a Cinderella Disney Bound today. As I understand it, this year Cinderella celebrates the 70th anniversary of the release of her film, but before I go into that for the rest of the afternoon, let's get right back to Walt Disney, an American Original by Bob Thomas. We were yesterday on Unit 2. Right, here we have Unacceptable. Let's get right into Unit 2, Chapter 7, shall we? A 1926 photograph of the Disney production team posing in front of the new Hyperion studio gives a picture of the spirit of the enterprise. This is mine, Luther, and you can't have any. Excuse me, I'm not given usually to having a glass of wine in the middle of the afternoon, but these are strange times. Please take your pollen-crusted butt out of my book, thank you. All but one are transplanted Kansas Cityans, and they appear imbued with the atmosphere of their new land. All but Roy Disney are in their mid-20s. 4 still have the mustaches that they grew on the office bet, and they seem more mature, although Disney's mustache gives him the look of a sober Charlie Chase. Not sure I understand that reference. The young men are posing with their precocious star, Margie Gay. Virginia Davis's parents had withdrawn her from the series to seek a dramatic career with scant success. Margie stands on an upturned box topped with a stack of books. The men stand in a row, legs crossed like Corinne's posing. And in the Hollywood vogue of the 20s, all wear knickers, or perhaps seem to, by tucking their trousers under long stockings. Take your butt out of my book. Their smiles are fixed and determined, revealing the righteousness of their cause. They were indeed dedicated to their work of creating comedy cartoons. Having failed in Kansas City, Walt Disney was determined to make the Hollywood venture an ever-growing success, and he was almost messianic in his leadership of his staff. The others responded by devoting most of their waking hours to the studio. You can't have my wine. Yet Walt realized that drawing animated cartoons was tedious, wearying work. And he encouraged his artists to refresh themselves. A noontime baseball game was instituted in the vacant lot across from the studio. Some days Walt joined for an inning or two. Although playing baseball was not one of his skills, I would love video footage of Walt Disney playing baseball, just so everyone knows. If there is archival footage of that out there somewhere, I want to know about it. After 2 years of the Alice comedies, Walt realized that the series was running down. The novelty of combining the playful little girl with cartoon figures had long before worn off, and it became increasingly difficult to integrate her into the cartoon action. Because Alice was not a basically comic figure, the bulk of the comedy had been assumed by Julius the cat. Charlie Mintz wrote Disney on February 13, 1926, Alice's Mystery ... is just another picture and has nothing in it whatever that is outstanding. It is short both on live action and on the entire footage ... As long as we are to do business together in the future, I think you will concede that I probably know a little more about what the market wants than you do. Oh, this Charlie Mintz sounds like someone I would just love to have a conversation with. Disney to Mintz, March 1st, 1926. I agree with you in regard to the live action and will assure you that I will do everything I can to work for the betterment of the pictures. Wherever it is possible, I will bring the girl closer to the camera and try to insert more close-ups when possible, without making the picture draggy or sacrificing funny business. I am only too glad to have you offer criticism on the pictures, and anything you suggest will be given careful consideration. However, I want you to understand that it is almost a physical impossibility to make each picture a knockout, and I only hope that you will be fair enough to let me know when I have a good picture, as well as to tell me about the poor ones. Mintz to Disney, May 20th, 1926. You asked me some time ago to be fair with you and tell you when you made a good picture. Now, I will tell you that I think Alice the Firefighter is as good as anything you have turned out, and perhaps a little better. I will also be fair with you a little more when I tell you that making good pictures as you are your own worst enemy by either taking unqualified advice or refusing to take advice with a certain amount of past performances and sincerity behind it. Disney to Mintz, June 15th, 1926. I want to say thank you for the compliment on Alice the Firefighter, and I want to say right here that I will not be satisfied until I am able to make them all as good or better. I am putting every effort toward this end and hope that in a very short time our average will be above them all, including Crazy Cat. I'm not real sure what Crazy Cat is, but it sounds entertaining. By the end of 1926, it was apparent that the Alice comedies had run their course. I got nothing on this last name, so if you know how to pronounce it, please let me know. It is Carl, I want to say Lemle, Laemmle. I'm going to go with Lemle. The aggressive founder of Universal Pictures had told Mintz that he wanted a cartoon series starring a rabbit. Margaret Winkler Mintz suggested to her husband that Walt Disney might make such a series to replace Alice. Walt was enthusiastic about the idea, and he sent off rough pencil sketches of rabbit characters. If these sketches are not what you want, he wrote Mintz, let me know more about it and I will try again. Universal approved the sketches and the Disney Company was authorized to make the first cartoon in the series, which Mintz named Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. In early April of 1927, Walt and his staff devised a plot of an overproductive rabbit and turned out the first cartoon, Poor Papa, on a rush schedule. The reviewing committee at Universal Film Exchanges in New York expressed disappointment, pointing out the faults. 1. Approximately 100 feet off the opening is jerky in action due to poor animation. 2. There is too much repetition of action. Scenes are dragged out to such an extent that the cartoon is materially slowed down. 3. The Oswald shown in this picture is far from being a funny character. He has no outstanding trait. Nothing would eventually become characteristic insofar as Oswald is concerned. 4. The picture is merely a succession of unrelated gags, there being not even a thread of story throughout its length. The committee observed that with the exception of Charlie Chaplin, important movie comedians were neat and dapper chaps. Oswald should have been young and romantic. Instead, he was elderly, sloppy, and fat. Yes, Luther, I'm looking directly at you right now. In his reply, Walt admitted his disappointment with Oswald, but defended the animation of Ub Iwerks, whom I am willing to put alongside any man in the business today, and that's a quote from Walt. Walt denied repeat action paddings. The repeats had been used for comic effect. He conceded that Oswald could be made a younger character, peppy, alert, saucy, and venturesome, keeping him also neat and trim. But Walt cautioned against too much plot because, by the time you have a story really started, it is time to iris out, and you have failed to make the audience laugh. Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, Walt Disney's first venture into the all-cartoon medium, provided an important lesson for the young filmmaker. He realized what he had known instinctively, that a strong, attractive central character was essential, and that a good storyline was needed, but too much plot could destroy laughter. He also learned that film company committees could throttle creativity. Imagine that. Walt and Ub worked late every night to transform Oswald into a more appealing cartoon figure. Walt admitted to Mintz upon delivery of the second Oswald, "This picture is far from being what I am working for in the future. I want to make Oswald have more personality and really create a likable character. And I believe that with a little time and patience on the part of you and Universal, that we will be able to develop a knockout series. We are changing the rabbit still more from the way he looks in this picture. We have eliminated the suspenders and changed his face considerably in the third one. I am also installing a new motor drive on the camera to eliminate a certain unevenness in the photography that has been noticeable in the past. I believe this will give much cleaner and better stuff in the future." Oh, the fact that he uses the word stuff. My own grandmother was particular about the word stuff. In specificity, never refer to food as stuff. With the third Oswald, Walt was still pleading with Mintz to remain patient and give us a chance to get started. Oswald the Lucky Rabbit soon began to fulfill Walt's hopes. The rabbit became softer, more appealing, and the situations were funnier. Walt stinted on nothing. He refused to employ cycles, the repeat action which could save hours of work at the animation table. He insisted on photographing the rough animation and viewing it in a projection room. If it seemed to work, then Walt authorized the production process to continue. If not, the sequence went back to the animator. Such meticulousness was expensive, and the cost of the Oswald cartoons climbed, but the added quality paid off. Reviews in the trade press helped draw the attention of film exhibitors. Film Daily wrote of Trolley Troubles, first of the cartoons to be released, ... "As conductor on a Toonerville trolley, Oswald is a riot. This and the two following in the series you can book on pure faith and our solemn word that they have the goods." Motion Picture News found Great Guns chock full of humor and predicted, "This series is bound to be popular in all types of houses if the present standard is maintained." Said Moving Picture World, "In addition to striking a new note in cartoon characters by featuring a rabbit, these Disney creations are bright, speedy, and genuinely amusing." ... "The animation is good, and the clever way in which Disney makes his creations simulate the gestures and expressions of human beings adds to the enjoyment. They should prove worthwhile attractions in any type of house." Movie audiences responded to Oswald from the beginning of the series. Oswald was also attracting a specialized audience, the cartoon animators of New York City. They had watched the Alice comedies with interest. They were overwhelmed by the original humor and fluid style of the Oswalds. The growing popularity of Oswald prompted offers for use of the character on merchandise. Oswald first appeared on a chocolate-coated marshmallow candy bar made by the Vogan Candy Corporation of Portland, Oregon. The wrapper bearing the message, "Watch for Oswald in Universal Pictures." The Philadelphia Badge Company issued a button with Oswald's likeness, and the Universal Tag and Novelty Company offered an Oswald stencil set. Forgive me for pausing, but one of my favorite birds just came to visit me. I just had a cedar waxwing visit my oak tree. The Disney Company received no royalty for the reproduction of Oswald, which Walt considered good publicity for the cartoon series. Walt hired more artists, and Ub and his fellow animators began turning out an Oswald cartoon every 2 weeks. Universal and Mintz were obviously happy with the results. Checks for $2,250 came promptly after the delivery of each new cartoon. Walt and Roy felt so encouraged by their prospects that they bought adjoining lots on Lyric Avenue and built identical prefabricated houses for $7,000 apiece. The Oswald contract was scheduled to conclude in February of 1928. Walt treated Lily and himself to a train trip to New York for the renewal negotiations with Mintz and Universal. Before leaving Los Angeles, Walt received a hint of impending trouble from Ub Iwerks. There were indications, Ub suggested, that Mintz's brother-in-law was doing more on his fortnightly visits to the Disney studio than merely collecting the completed Oswald and the lobby poster which Ub created for each new chapter. Ub had become suspicious of the confidential talks that George Winkler had been having with the other animators at the studio. Walt was inclined to dismiss Ub's suspicions, and he went off to New York with an air of optimism. Mintz greeted Walt and Lily cordially, and they were joined at lunch in the Hotel Astor by Margaret Winkler Mintz, who had started Walt's career by distributing the Alice comedies. If you're not familiar, the Hotel Astor's original owner and proprietor, I want to say, John Jacob Astor went down with the Titanic, and that would have been within everyone's living memory at that point. Just little extraneous trivia. The conversation was warm, but Walt detected a hollow note in Mintz's geniality. Jack Alicote? I'm gonna go with Alicote here. It's spelled A-L-I-C-O-A-T-E. If you know, I encourage you to correct me. I would love to get it right. Editor of Film Daily stopped at the table, and Mintz introduced him to the young producer of the Oswald cartoons. Oswald, oh yes, said Alicote. I've heard nice things about them, especially the nice grosses. Walt was pleased, but he noticed that Mintz seemed disturbed by the remark. Well, today is just a good day for birds, isn't it? I've got a mama bluebird in my other oak tree. Negotiations for the new Oswald contract were held in Mintz's office on 42nd Street. If you are at all a musical theater fan, you probably have Give My Regards to Broadway ringing through your head right now. I know I do. Walt began by suggesting that in view of the unquestioned success of Oswald, the price per cartoon should be raised from $2,250 to $2,500. I'll give you $1,800, Mintz replied. Oh, I have some things to say about this Mintz character. $1,800 for each cartoon would mean a loss for the Disney studio. Walt asked for an explanation. Either you come with me at my price, or I'll take your organization away from you, Mintz announced. I have your key men signed up. Oh, I have so much to say about this Mintz character. Walt couldn't believe it. Had Mintz actually plotted to steal away the Disney animators? And would his boys, to whom he had taught the cartooning trade in Kansas City, desert him to work for Mintz? Walt told Mintz he needed time to consider the ultimatum. Walt hurried back to the hotel and telephoned Roy the news of Mintz's bombshell. Roy made an investigation and discovered that virtually all of the animators except Ub Iwerks had committed themselves to Mintz. What was it they said in Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl? The deepest circle of hell is reserved for betrayers and mutineers? Mintz pressed for a decision, and Walt tried to stall. He found an ally in Alicote, and the trade paper editor arranged interviews at Fox and Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, but neither company expressed interest in releasing Oswald. Now Mintz played his trump card. By contract, Oswald was the property of Universal Pictures, not Walt Disney. Walt was disheartened. All of his hard work and creative effort had created a valuable property which he didn't own. When he told Lily the sorrowful news, he vowed, "Never again will I work for somebody else." Charlie Mintz made another offer. He would pay for the costs of producing each cartoon, providing liberal salaries for studio employees, and sharing 50% of the profits. Walt had no intention of accepting the offer, but he asked for time to consider it. He hoped he could persuade Universal executives to intervene. "Give us a decent break," he pleaded, but Universal sided with Charlie Mintz. "Well, we are still hanging around this hellhole waiting for something to happen," Walt wrote his brother on March 7th. "Before you get this letter, I hope you will have had a wire containing good news. I can't rush things any faster. Just have to do the best I can. But I will fight it out on this line if it takes all summer. It sure looks like a fight to the finish. Charlie is very determined to get absolute control of everything and will do everything in his power to gain his end. But unknown to him, we have a stronger power on our side." Walt told Roy of waiting in the hotel room for a telephone call from Universal with the hope that they will take advantage of the situation and give Charlie the air and deal direct with us. But I guess that is hoping for too much. But don't worry. I really do feel that everything will turn out all right. Anyways, I believe that whatever does happen is for the best. Walt retained his calm attitude in messages to Roy, adding requests to turn off the water heater and make sure that his female dog did not become pregnant. My guess would be spaying and neutering was not quite a thing in private homes yet. I'd have to look up when James Herriot really got that popularized with home pet owners. "Keep your chin up," Walt advised his older brother. "We will be able to laugh last. That's the best laugh of all." Finally, there was nothing to do but concede defeat. Walt paid a last visit to the office of Charlie Mintz to say he could not accept the offered terms. Mintz could have Oswald. Surprisingly, Walt evidenced no rancor. He offered the older man advice. "Protect yourself, Charlie. If my artists did it to me, they'll do it to you." The triumphant Charlie Mintz refused to believe that Oswald could ever be wrested away from him. But that was what later happened. Thank you, Diane Disney Miller, for bringing Oswald home in, I want to say it was 2008? Walt and Lily packed their bags for the melancholy trip home. Walt sent a final telegram to Roy. "Leaving tonight, stopping over KC, arrive home Sunday morning 7:30. Don't worry, everything okay. We'll give details when arrive. Walt." And that has been Unit 2, Chapter 7 of Walt Disney, an American Original. And this has been Anna Reed's Cinderella edition. Like I said, I'm not normally given to having a glass of wine on my front porch in the middle of the afternoon on Holy Saturday, but here we are. We're entering day whatever, week whatchamacallit of this global pandemic, voluntary self-isolation, quarantine. whatever you want to call it. I don't know about y'all, but I'm about to go out of my skull. I miss my cons. I miss my mouse. I miss my friends and family. I'm sure we all do. So raise a glass to everyone you missed today. I maintain, take care of each other. Hold on to the magic. Hold on to whatever you can. On a more practical note, of course, if you have a suggestion for something you'd like to hear me read, feel free to contact me on Instagram at serenity_sweet13, on Twitter at serenitysweet13, no underscore, on Facebook if that's how you found my YouTube channel, or feel free to direct message or comment right here on YouTube. Luther, come here for a second. He will not. So, I guess really all that's left is, now it's time to say goodbye to all our company. M-I-C, see you real soon. K-E-Y. Why? Because we like you. M-O-U-S-E. Stay strong, everybody.